inflammation is something that I've often heard as described as the root of all diseases. And it's something that
Yeah.
the standard Western diet seems to proliferate inflammation. And I wonder if you could talk about inflammation in the gut and how we can move away from inflammation and move away from lifestyle disease.
Yeah, it's something I'm asked about all the time, actually. This whole concept that we can eat in a certain way to reduce inflammation. That's really important to understand that inflammation is an important and natural process. And it's an essential human response. It's one of the things our body does when it has a challenge. So if your body is exposed to a toxic agent, a poison, a damaging substance, I mean, for example, alcohol would be a good example of that. Or even if you're injured, if you fall over and you bump your knee or you break your arm or whatever, the acute inflammatory response, if you're facing an infection like a chest infection or pneumonia or whatever, the inflammatory response that comes from your body is really, really important to eliminate the toxic agent and begin the process of repairing any damaged tissue. But once that threat has been dealt with, those inflammatory mechanisms are no longer needed and they're supposed to switch off. So that's acute short-term inflammation. So if some of those inflammatory mechanisms in your body remain active, your body can enter a state of what's commonly referred to as chronic inflammation. Now, the word chronic just means long-term over time, chronos over time. And so the long-term presence of a low-grade inflammatory response. Now, this chronic inflammation, in contrast, is an abnormal and unhealthy state to be in. And chronic inflammation is, in many ways, a kind of a unifying problem that we see in many, many, many chronic diseases in high-income countries, in countries where we eat this global standard diet and have these busy 21st century lifestyles. The state of chronic inflammation seems to play a role in everything from ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease to coronary artery disease, dementia, depression, etc. It's a unifying driver or a unifying contributor to so many conditions. And yes, the foods that we choose to eat play a tremendous role in helping to promote or reduce chronic inflammation. So, for example, higher consumption of animal fat, the saturated fat and cholesterol fats that we get from eating meat, and animal protein that we get from animal products has been shown to promote inflammation in both the gut itself, but also throughout the body. And the effect that those foods exert in your gut microbiome was shown very clearly back in 2014. For example, one of the research teams who looked at this was a team at Harvard and the University of California, and they got healthy volunteers to eat a very unhealthy diet just for 4 days, guys, right? And everything they were eating for those 4 days was eggs, meat, bacon, and cheese. So they were on a kind of a ketogenic/carnivore diet
High
for just
saturated
4
fat,
days.
low fiber.
Zero fiber, because
Wow.
there isn't any fiber. There isn't any fiber at all in animal products, and that's all they were eating for those 4 days. And within 24 hours of adopting this animal-based diet, this completely fiber-deficient diet, and this was to be fair, this diet didn't have any junk food in it. There was no artificial additives, there was no maltodextrins or anything like that. This was, eggs, meat, bacon, okay, and cheese. And within 4 days, they'd seen very significant negative effects in the gut microbiome. In fact, within 24 hours, their pro-inflammatory bacteria within their gut microbiome began to flourish. But then what if we dial it all the way over to the other side, a healthy plant-based diet? Well, if you get your calories from plants, you're maximizing your intake of anti-inflammatory compounds and antioxidants like flavonoids, carotenoids, vitamin C, vitamin E. And a plant-based diet is also naturally higher in the healthy unsaturated fats that we get from plants. And it's lower in the pro-inflammatory saturated fats and doesn't contain any of the heme iron that we only get from animal products. So it's about creating a gut milieu, a gut microbiome that's, not conducive to chronic inflammation. But in fact, it begins even before the gut microbiome. When you start absorbing your iron, the heme iron is pro-inflammatory in your body. The non-heme iron that we get from plants isn't. pro-inflammatory. So it's no surprise that multiple markers of chronic inflammation are lower in people who eat a plant-based, especially an exclusively plant-based diet, because almost by definition, the sort of diet that we both promote, which is a majority unprocessed plant-based diet, really ticks all the right boxes. You know, it really is an anti-inflammatory diet. So the food we eat has a huge impact. But so do other habits. And you know, if anyone is taking the Gut Health Revolution online course, they'll learn that we don't just talk about food, although food is really important. We've got all the healthy recipes from you guys, all these delicious higher fiber, low fat meals with a diversity of plants and junk food. You can do the step up slowly, or just only eat some of the food if you want. You don't have to go exclusively plant based. Well, that option is there. But also we deal with the mindfulness side with Simone, who does the importance of mindful meditation and calming the gut-brain axis, which also may help to reduce chronic inflammation. And then we got you guys covering the gut healthy lifestyle, physical activity, time in nature, immunity. And then for the nerds, and hopefully everyone listening to this is a gut health nerd. The fourth thing we have is we've got me and Rosie in the gut health classroom, really talking about a lot of the stuff that we've just been talking about reducing inflammation, all the complexities, trying to make all of this complicated stuff easy for people, you know?